You paid for their fame. You built their careers. And some of them repaid you with insults, humiliation, and cold rejection. Not rumors, not gossip. Real moments where fans were treated like nothing. These actors did not just ignore admiration, they crushed it. Stay with this countdown because the final name crosses a line most celebrities never dare. Number 15. Kevin James. Kevin James built a career on being the friendly face of comedy. The safe man who feels like your neighbor. The kind of actor audiences trust without question. But the moment the cameras stop, that image begins to fracture. There are repeated stories of strict instructions given to staff around him. Do not look at him. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not break the invisible barrier that separates him from everyone else in the room. One account describes a waitress trying to take a simple order and being shut down instantly. Not ignored. Corrected like she crossed a line she was never meant to approach. Fans who expected warmth often walked away confused. The same man who plays lovable characters suddenly becomes distant and closed. Security steps in quickly. Conversations end before they begin. The energy shifts from approachable to untouchable. This is not a moment of anger. It feels controlled, measured, almost practiced. A man who understands exactly how he appears on screen, yet refuses to offer even a fraction of that in real life. And that is where the illusion breaks. Because the biggest shock is not hostility. It is realizing the character people loved never existed beyond the script. Number 14. Arthur Lowe. Arthur Lowe made millions laugh every week. His voice became part of British culture. His character lived in homes across the country. But the man behind that voice carried a very different attitude. Fans would approach him with excitement. They would repeat his famous lines, hoping for a smile. Instead, they were met with a cold stare that shut everything down instantly. No humor, no recognition. Just a silent rejection that made people step back in embarrassment. On set, things were no different. He kept his distance from colleagues, avoided casual conversation, treated the environment like something beneath him. The same show that gave him fame was seen as low-level entertainment, something he endured rather than embraced. He accepted the money. He accepted the fame. But he never accepted the people who gave him both. That divide became impossible to ignore. There is something deeply uncomfortable about a man who becomes a national favorite while quietly looking down on the nation itself. The laughter continued on screen. Off-screen, the warmth was gone. Number 13. Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz stood at the center of global fame. Red carpets, premieres, crowds waiting for a moment with her. But when those moments arrived, the reaction often stunned people. At events where fans were invited to meet her, she would walk past them without stopping, refusing photos, refusing autographs, even when only a handful of people stood there waiting. The distance was not forced by chaos. It was chosen. One moment stands out. A small group of fans waited at a premiere. Not a crowd, not a mob, just a few people hoping for a quick interaction. She looked at them and refused outright. No apology. No explanation that softened the blow. Just a firm rejection before walking away. For the fans, it felt personal. Because the setting promised access. It suggested connection. Instead, it delivered silence. She does not pretend to be warm. She does not perform kindness for approval. But that honesty does not make the experience easier for the people standing on the other side of that barrier. And that is where the tension lives. Fame built on admiration. Moments where that admiration is pushed away without hesitation. Number 12. Will Ferrell. You expect laughter when you approach Will Ferrell. That is the promise his entire career is built on. A goofy genius who turns awkward moments into comedy gold. But for some fans, the joke lands very differently. There are accounts of fans approaching him politely for autographs only to become the punchline themselves, mocked, imitated, made to feel ridiculous in front of others. What begins as admiration quickly turns into embarrassment. The interaction becomes a performance, but not one the fans signed up for. On film sets, similar behavior has been described. crew members allegedly dealing with sudden bursts of irritation, sharp remarks that cut through the atmosphere. The same energy that fuels his comedy on screen flips into something far less entertaining off-screen. Fans walk in, expecting a moment of connection. They leave questioning why they even approached him in the first place. The laughter they admired becomes something directed at them rather than shared with them. It is not explosive anger. It is something more subtle, turning admiration into discomfort, turning a fan into a joke. And once that moment passes, there is no applause waiting at the end of it. Number 11. Rex Harrison. Elegance defined Rex Harrison on screen. Smooth voice, perfect posture. A man who looked like he belonged to a higher world. But the way he treated people around him made that image feel dangerously real. Fans approaching him did not receive gratitude. They were often met with sharp dismissals that cut straight through their excitement. Asking for an autograph was enough to trigger humiliation. Not a simple refusal, but a public shutdown that left people standing awkwardly in front of a crowd. Stories from restaurants and hotels describe something even harsher. Staff being summoned with finger snaps. Orders delivered like commands. People treated as if they existed only to serve him. The gap between him and everyone else was not subtle. It was enforced. There was no effort to soften it, no attempt to hide it. He carried himself like someone above ordinary interaction, someone who believed admiration was owed, but respect was optional. Fans did not just walk away disappointed. They walked away reduced, and that feeling stayed long after the moment ended. Number 10. Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson became a global obsession almost overnight. Crowds followed him. Fans studied his every move. But instead of embracing that attention, he pushed back in ways that confused and unsettled people. He openly mocked the fan base that made him famous, questioning what they do with their time, describing their dedication in ways that sounded more like frustration than gratitude. Interviews became a space where admiration was turned into something awkward and uncomfortable. In public, he went even further, covering himself to avoid recognition, acting erratically to keep people away, spitting near the ground, moving unpredictably just to make sure no one came close. It was not quiet avoidance. It was active rejection. Fans who once felt connected to him suddenly found themselves on the outside, watching someone they supported treat that support like an inconvenience. There is something jarring about seeing admiration turned into irritation so openly. No filter, no attempt to protect the image, just a clear message that the attention was never welcome. And for many fans, that realization hit harder than any insult ever could. Number 9. Scarlett Johansson. Picture this moment clearly. Freezing cold night. Snow falling hard. A small group of fans waiting outside a theater for one chance. Not a crowd, not chaos, just patience. 40 minutes of it. One by one, other actors step out. They stop, they sign, they smile. The moment feels worth it. Then the final door opens. Scarlett Johansson walks out. The energy shifts instantly. No pause, no eye contact, no acknowledgement. She moves past every single person like they are not even there. No wave, no apology, nothing. Just silence, where a moment was expected. For those standing there, it was not anger that hit first. It was disbelief. The kind that sinks in slowly. The realization that waiting meant nothing. That effort was invisible. These were not intrusive fans chasing her. They were standing where they were supposed to stand, waiting where they were supposed to wait, and still the response was absence. That kind of dismissal cuts deeper than a harsh word, because it tells you something simple. You do not matter in that moment, not even enough to be refused directly. And once that message lands, it does not leave easily. Number 8. Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed did not ignore fans. He confronted them. And sometimes that confrontation turned into something far more aggressive than anyone expected. Approaching him was never a safe decision, especially in public places where alcohol fueled his behavior. Fans, hoping for a quick interaction, often found themselves face to face with hostility. Not subtle, not controlled, loud and unpredictable. There are accounts of insults thrown without warning, people mocked for simply recognizing him, moments escalating into threats, even challenges to physical fights. What should have been admiration turned into intimidation within seconds. He did not hide behind security. He did not walk away quietly. He leaned into the chaos, treated the situation like a stage where dominance mattered more than connection. Fans were not seen as supporters. They became targets, easy ones, people who could not push back, people who could only stand there and absorb the moment. There is a difference between avoiding attention and attacking it. Oliver Reed crossed that line repeatedly. And for those who experienced it firsthand, the story never sounds exaggerated. It sounds like a warning. Number 7, Kate Winslet. Expectations follow Kate Winslet everywhere. The image of grace, the idea of warmth, the belief that someone so admired would naturally reflect that admiration back. But reality has not always matched that belief. There are moments where fans gathered in difficult conditions just to see her, waiting in the rain, standing for hours, hoping for a brief interaction. When she finally appeared, the reaction stunned them. No engagement, no acknowledgement, just passing by with visible disinterest. Fans left standing there after investing time and effort that went completely unrecognized. What made it worse was the silence. No explanation, no gesture to soften the moment, just a clear distance that could be felt instantly. For many, it was not about the autograph. It was about being seen. That basic exchange where admiration meets acknowledgement. When that does not happen, the disappointment becomes personal. She has spoken about pressures and criticism in her life. But for those standing outside, waiting, none of that context was visible. Only the moment in front of them. And in that moment, the connection they expected simply did not exist. Number 6, Jamie Foxx. At a major film premiere, the atmosphere was electric. Fans were excited. Cameras flashed. The cast moved through the crowd, sharing laughs and moments that felt genuine. Actors stopped to greet people. Conversations happened naturally. It felt like one of those rare nights where the barrier between celebrity and audience faded. Then there was Jamie Foxx. While everyone else engaged, he stayed seated, distant, detached, watching the room instead of stepping into it. Fans who approached him were met with nothing. No greeting, no smile. Not even a polite acknowledgement. The silence was not accidental. It was deliberate. People who had waited for that moment stood there, unsure of what to do next. The contrast made it worse. When every other actor is giving time and energy, one person refusing to participate stands out immediately. It creates a gap that cannot be ignored. Colleagues mingled freely while he remained isolated. The message became clear, without a single word being spoken. The room was full of people celebrating the same project, yet one of its biggest stars chose to disconnect completely. For fans, the experience stayed with them long after the event ended. Not because something dramatic happened, because nothing happened at all. No interaction, no recognition, just a presence that felt closed off from everyone around it. And sometimes, that kind of silence leaves a louder impression than any confrontation ever could. Number 5, Dirk Bogarde. Dirk Bogarde carried himself with precision, every movement controlled, every appearance measured. He built an image of sophistication that separated him from the chaos of fame. But that separation extended directly toward the people who made him famous. When crowds gathered around him, he did not respond with excitement. He recoiled. Fans reaching out for connection were met with stillness, a cold expression that stopped them in their tracks. No anger, no raised voice. Just a look that made it clear they had crossed into unwanted space. He avoided the frenzy of public attention with intensity. The screaming crowds did not energize him. They pushed him further away. He saw admiration as intrusion, something that threatened the control he carefully maintained over his life. People who approached him hoping for a moment often walked away without a word being exchanged. The interaction ended before it even began. Silence replaced connection. Distance replaced warmth. Over time, he moved away from mainstream audiences altogether. choosing environments where that level of attention did not exist. It was not just a career shift. It felt like an escape from the very people who once celebrated him. Fans were left with an image that looked perfect from afar, but felt unreachable up close. A star who remained admired, yet never truly accessible. And that distance became the defining feature of every encounter. Number 4. Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock has long been seen as approachable, the kind of star people feel comfortable walking up to. That image makes what happened in one encounter even harder to process. A fan approached her, politely, asking for an autograph. No crowd, no pressure, just a simple request from someone who admired her work. The reaction came fast and loud. She covered her face and raised her voice, telling him to stop. The moment escalated instantly. The situation became more uncomfortable when it was revealed who the fan was, a wheelchair-bound veteran, someone who likely saw that moment as special. Instead, it turned into something humiliating in front of others. There was no calm refusal, no quiet exit. It became a scene that left the fan exposed and embarrassed. People around witnessed the shift from admiration to rejection in seconds. Moments like that travel quickly. They stick, because they break the expectation people carry when they approach someone they admire. The belief that at the very least, they will be treated with basic respect. Fans do not expect long conversations. They do not expect special treatment. They expect acknowledgement, even a brief one. When that turns into something harsh, the impact multiplies. For those who saw it happen, the image changed instantly, not because of a rumor, because of a moment that played out in real time. And once that image shifts, it rarely returns to what it was before. Number 3. Peter Sellers. Behind the brilliance of Peter Sellers lived a man who could turn a simple interaction into something deeply uncomfortable. Fans approached him, expecting humor, a quick voice, a moment that matched the characters they loved. What they received instead was silence that felt heavy. He did not engage. He did not smile. He looked straight through people, as if they were not worth acknowledging. Admirers standing inches away felt invisible. Conversations died before they even started. The gap between the performer and the person became impossible to ignore. Stories from those who worked around him revealed the same pattern. Sudden anger, sharp words, people reduced to nothing for small mistakes. That same cold detachment followed him into public spaces where fans hoped for connection. What makes it harder to process is how much he relied on the audience. Every laugh, every ticket, every success came from the same people he refused to face. Yet when those people stood in front of him, he treated them like interruptions. Fans did not leave angry. They left, confused, trying to understand how someone who created so much joy could show so little of it in return. The laughter remained on screen. Off screen, there was nothing to hold on to, just a distance that never closed. Number 2. Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness became immortal through one role that changed cinema forever. Fans carried that character with them for decades. They approached him with respect, with admiration, with gratitude for something that meant more than just entertainment. One encounter defined everything. A young fan proudly told him he had watched his film over and over again. Instead of appreciation, the response came cold and sharp. He agreed to give an autograph on one condition. The boy must promise never to watch the film again. The moment broke instantly. The excitement disappeared. The child left in tears. What should have been a memory turned into something painful. This was not an isolated feeling. He often spoke about his most famous role with frustration. Fans celebrating it only reminded him of something he wished to move beyond. That frustration showed itself in real interactions. People who approached him expected warmth. They expected a connection to something they loved. Instead, they faced rejection that felt personal. There is a difference between distancing yourself from a role and pushing away the people who cherish it. In his case, those lines blurred completely. The legacy remained untouchable, but the experience of meeting him told a very different story. Number 1. William Shatner. There are actors who keep distance from fans. Then there is William Shatner, who turned that distance into something far more uncomfortable. Not silence, not avoidance, direct dismissal that leaves no room for interpretation. Fans have paid serious money just to meet him, to stand in line for a few seconds, to get a photo or an autograph. What they often received instead was cold indifference. Instructions on how to stand, how to pose, what to do. No conversation, no warmth. Just a transaction that felt stripped of any human connection. There are reports of volunteers at events being reduced to tears, not because of chaos, because of how they were spoken to. Fans expecting a moment of appreciation instead found themselves being controlled, like part of a process rather than people. Even online, the message has been clear. Do not ask. Do not expect. If you do not like it, then leave. That attitude removes any illusion that fan interaction matters to him. What makes this hit harder is the scale of his legacy, a career built on one of the most devoted fan bases in history, people who stayed loyal for decades. And yet when they finally stand in front of him, the experience often feels empty, not ignored, not attacked, just dismissed in a way that makes the entire moment feel pointless. And that is why this name sits at number 1. Fame is built on fans, but respect is a choice. Some of these stars made it clear which side they stand on. If this list surprised you, wait until you hear more stories like these. Hit subscribe, share your thoughts, and tell us which name shocked you the most.